Welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. This is Robert Phoenix, and we're talking spontaneous combustion today as I fade out on quarantine, which seems to be more and more like a pretty prescient track that I created about 6 years ago, where I was messing around with samples and kind of some hard driving rhythms and riffs and tablas. If you listen to that song all the way through, there's some very incendiary lyrics, and it was, I guess, my take on where things were going at that time. It's 15 minutes of phlegm today, not 15 minutes of flame, with culture wars. And I had no idea that it was going to get this bad with the Astroturf crisis, known as Wahhabist Salafist extreme Islam, which is now apparently plaguing the West, as it has been virulently transplanted from North Africa, the Middle East, to Europe, and now apparently come here to the United States. Now, we've just had 3 events that took place over the weekend, one of which happened on Sunday night, which was the bomb blast, which is real. It was a real bomb. It went off. It might have been some kind of strange controlled demolition. 26 people were injured in the Chelsea district in New York City with an IED, and then they found more in New Jersey, not far away. Simultaneously, or almost simultaneously, there was an attack, and I talked about this on Sunday night, at a mall in Minnesota, Mall of the Americas, where there was a knife-wielding Muslim who decided to go after people. Of course, he asked them whether or not they were Muslims, and on Sunday night's show, I suggested that if somebody asks you if you're a Muslim or not, to, maybe ask them that, what's Islam all about? Find out more. It's like, you know what? I've been hearing a lot about Islam in the news these days, and it sounds, kind of dangerous and exciting, and also, pretty reverent. I'd like to hear more about this Islamic faith. Tell me more about it. So if anybody ever comes up to you, ask you if you're Muslim, I wouldn't say yes, and I wouldn't say no. But I'd ask to learn more. Anyway, let's get back to these attacks. Now, they found the person who was dragging the bomb through New York City. It's, of course, your rather generic Muslim name, but I'll put his name on here, and let's see if I can find it. What do we got? I just had them up here on my screen. Anyway, New York bomb, homegrown. Okay, there it is. They're homegrown EED from online instructions. So apparently this guy figured out how to make an IED from online instructions. But this does not bode well. This does not bode well on a number of different levels. Number one, he was spotted via a camera dragging the IED. And number two, he found a way to do this online. What does that mean for me and you? How does that impact us? The UN is just about ready to take over the internet. I think we've got about 6 days before it takes over the internet. As he touches his little camera here to brighten things up. Oh, you know what? I was going to do the video, but we're not going to do it today. So we have, we've got about 6 days before the internet gets turned over to ICANN, the UN, and there's speculation that the days of the free internet are coming to an end. And when we see something like this, when we find that a guy can figure out how to make an IED from instructions online, then it begins to populate the sort of the collective mind, the hive mind, that all of a sudden things should be a lot more regulated on the internet. Well, I'll tell you, there are 2 internets. If you're not aware of this, there's the one that you and I and most people traffic on, and then there's something called the dark net, or the dark web, where you can find just about anything, and I mean anything, from figuring out how to put together an IED. That's lightweight. You could probably find that on the light web. But you can find just about anything on the dark web. So there are 2 levels of the internet that exist simultaneously, almost like we're living in 2 worlds simultaneously. But we have these 2 pieces of information now which confer that, at least it was after the fact. Well, they would say, okay, Well, he was looking at the pipe bomb online, how to make it after the fact. We saw him dragging the pipe bomb, pressure cooker, whatever he's got down the streets after the fact. What if we can do this before the fact? What if we can amalgamate a series of searches using the NSA's spectacular technology combined with Israel's back-end data gathering capabilities and amass enough evidence so that we can actually stop that person before they do something? Yes, this is called pre-crime. And this is something that Phil K. Dick talks about in Minority Report. It is coming. I'm telling you right now, the whole pre-crime, the amalgamation and the amassing of data, biometric information, personal space data, however they want to accrue all this stuff, they're going to create profiles. The profiles are already there, but they're going to have this next layer of security that's going to be kicking into place, and it's all about pre-crime. And I know that there are a lot of people who like Donald Trump. Trump has some interesting things to say. He's a maverick. He's a firebrand. He is a Gemini sun with Uranus conjunct Gemini, Trudeau conjunct Gemini. You don't know what you're going to get with him. But I'll tell you what he said over and over and over again. And you can take this to the bank. You can take this to the data bank. That he is going to implement more and more models of information gathering, data gathering, and surveillance. It is coming. And I'll even venture to say that whether or not Trump is the next president, and now it's beginning to look in some ways like he might be the next president. It's beginning to kind of pivot now, that he will implement these plans. And that the amount of security that we're going to have to go through on a daily basis is nothing like it is today. It's going to be like light and day. It's going to be like an AC, a BC and an AD. I know they don't use those affiliations anymore, but it's going to be like that. There's going to be a before and after moments. And all it will take is one more significant event, false flag, that will usher in this new level of security. Now, some of the people that have been really pushing and helping to astroturf the Islamophobia or the rise of the ISIS or the ISIL or the Daesh state are people like Daniel Pipes and Pamela Geller. And Pamela Geller has been extremely vocal about what's happening with ISIS, what's happening with the Wahhabist Salafist sects. And her website, American Jihad, has been blowing up over the course of the last 2 years. This is the drum she's been banging. Pamela Geller is a Gemini. She's going to play two different sides. She might be a double agent. Would not be surprised if she has ties to Mossad. Would not be surprised if she's got some kind of dual citizenship with Israel. I don't know that for a fact. But the fact of the matter is that she has become extremely vocal. Now, if you go to her website, the guy, Amran, I forget his last name or full name, he has been extremely vocal about his hate for Donald Trump and Pamela Geller. Hello? So now not only do we have a guy who is going out and creating this stuff, and we have a record of him creating this stuff, and he's been apprehended. It's all after the fact. But he was out there talking about how much he hates Trump and Pamela Geller, and she's able to put it on her website. Again, it's after the fact. That, I'm sure that where there's smoke, there's fire here. Now, we have to understand, again, how are these people coerced into doing these things? Because in many cases, they have been essentially led down a primrose path, although without the primroses. They've been led down the dupe path, let's call it the dupe aisle. And they've been essentially conditioned and promoted to engage in a terrorist activity, in many cases by somebody inside the intelligence agencies. This has happened again and again and again. They will target a couple of people and they'll have a relationship with them. Generally, somebody will be in deep cover, but also being connected to one of the agencies. This is what happened with the Tsarnaev brothers. The Tsarnaev brothers had connections to the CIA through their uncle, who had been connected to the CIA, and the CIA director over in, where were they from? I think it's Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. I think they're Kyrgyz. Anyway, their uncle married the daughter of the guy who was running the CIA operation. This is true. You can look it up. Married his daughter, moved to the United States. So they had connections with the intelligence agencies, and those were direct, and sometimes they're very indirect. If you go back to what happened in Oklahoma City with Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, what they did is they were, again, connected to a guy who was, sort of vaguely Islamic, and he was a plant through the intelligence agencies, like the FBI, and was able to gather the data and help them create their fertilizer bomb scenario, which really, as we all know, was not the case with the Oklahoma City bombing. So again, when we bring that forward, we have to understand, or at least begin to factor that if this guy acted, there's probably a pretty good chance that he acted with some kind of enabling. Now, what's happened is we've lit the fuse. What started as a bunch of cutouts in the Middle East has now become an astroturf movement with enough momentum, enough venom, enough hate, enough vile emotion that it's taken on a life of its own. And then if you look at Americans, most of whom have no desire to go beneath the surface of things, they will take events at a topical level and they will factor that information in, they will turn it into emotional fuel, and they will help amplify these events. So from an emotional level, we're talking about collective amplification. It's happening now. So the best thing you can do, and this is what I encourage everybody, is to look at these events with a very clear sense of vision, a very clear sense of purpose in terms of dissecting them, and try not to get emotionally dragged in. If you get emotionally dragged in, you are adding to the energy of the event. Now, there are some events in your life where emotion is really important. It's your family, the people you love, your children. Your cherished rights should be guarded with a sense of emotionality. These are areas where emotion is key. When it comes to the collective events, do your best to step back and really observe what's taking place. And what's happening with Hillary Clinton, she's about to make an appearance again, I think in the next couple of days. She took 6 days off. Maybe that's how long it takes to get the next double prepared, to get them nice and refreshing, get their vocal chops down. Hillary's she's like whack-a-mole right now. She's like popping up in all these different places and looking very differently and sounding very differently. We were in the twilight zone in this election when it comes to these events that are fueling Donald Trump's ascendancy and the variety of Hillarys that are showing up everywhere. So put your they live glasses on and look at the world through those lenses. That's today's 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix.